You ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Well, let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borg. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Friday, 24th day of September 2021. It is overcast and dark here on this Friday in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Thanks so much for joining us, whoever you are and wherever you are. We're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you cannot see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds, and that will give you one-click access to this show each and every day. It also gives you access to the chat box so that you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Now, on days that you're out of your office, away from your desktop, there are two other ways to join the broadcast. Number one, point any internet-connected browser to cfrn.net/live. There you'll have a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You just won't have access to the chat box. We also stream live each day on our YouTube channel. It's easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live each and every day, but we archive every daily show. Currently, we have over 1,800 daily live broadcasts archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. So with that, we're going to open with a word of prayer. Today, each day, well, not every day, but some days we have a specific topic that we pray for. Today, well, we're going to pray again for Afghanistan. In particular, we're going to actually pray for the Taliban. Now, that may seem crazy, but God's word, His thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. His word clearly says that we should pray for our enemies, for those who spitefully persecute us, that we should pray for them. Now, it's not just the Taliban that needs our prayer, but all the people of Afghanistan, no matter what their nationality, where they come from, whether they're native or not, the whole situation. So we should be praying for God's protection. The situation on the ground is fluid right now, so we need to pray for God's protection over His people. We need to pray for wisdom. We need to ask God to bless our brothers and sisters with discernment as they decide whether to stay or go, even with whom they should talk. Pray for fellowship. Believers in Afghanistan often must keep their faith a secret, even from family members. Pray that God will help each Afghan believer to connect and fellowship with at least one other believer in person, by phone, or through some other technology. Pray that God will remind them that they are not alone, but are part of the global body of Christ. Pray for safe passage. Pray that Muslims will meet Christ. And pray for Christians who are trying to help. For decades, Voice of the Martyrs has provided help and encouragement to Christians in Afghanistan. Pray for the wisdom of frontline workers and pray that God will open new pathways for them to continue their work under Taliban control. And what set my thoughts on our prayer today and this topic was from a headline, as I was gathering headlines that I would share with you on today's show. One of the founders of the Taliban, and I won't even, I'll give it a shot, Mullah Nuruddin Tarabi, told the Associated Press yesterday that the Islamist group will bring back executions and amputations of hands it used the last time it ruled Afghanistan to punish people for violations of its harsh interpretation of Islamic law. In the past, the executions were often carried out in public and denounced by world leaders. Turabi said, "Everyone criticized us for the punishments in the stadiums, but we have never said anything about their laws and their punishments." Now, this Turabi, he is the chief enforcer of the Taliban's laws. He was the chief enforcer before the group was toppled 20 years ago by a U.S.-led invasion. He goes on to say, "No one will tell us what our laws should be. We will follow Islam, and we will make our laws based on the Quran." Thank God that we have a Holy Bible and not the Quran. So, join with me as we pray. Heavenly Father, even when it doesn't make sense to our earthly selves, you call us to pray for those who persecute us and other Christians in Matthew 5:44. God, today we lift up the Taliban to you. We pray that your Holy Spirit would work in them and soften their hearts. Only you truly know their hearts, Lord. Just as you created us, help us to remember that they are your creation as well, and you love them deeply. Help us to desire the restoration of their hearts and welcome them with open arms into the family of Christ when their hearts are changed. You alone can work in the hearts and minds, and we pray that through this process we would see a transformation and a revival. Let us continue to lift them up to you in love, knowing that you came to save each and every one of us. We know that ultimately, God, you are sovereign over all things. No matter what wars are being waged, won, or lost here on earth, in the end, you will always have the victory. It's so hard for us to see this reality while we live through fearful and uncertain events, but by turning our eyes to you and lifting up our fears and desires to you, we can truly know in our heart that you and you alone are in control. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, guys. Happy Friday. Hope it is a happy Friday for you, whoever you are, wherever you are. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. These are the cash markets, the indices as they're called. Starting here in the U.S., the Dow is down, it's basically unchanged, down 1.5 points. NASDAQ is down 43. S&P 500 is basically unchanged, positive by a couple ticks. And the Russell 2000 is down almost 2 points. So yes, some pretty quiet, consolidated, sideways trade. And After the last couple days of volatility, not too terribly surprising that we would see, after all that volatility, some consolidation. That's typically historic in the markets. But the session, it's not over yet, so we'll see what the rest of the day brings. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 57 cents, trading 73.87 last. Gold up $3.10, trading 17.52.90 last. Silver down 20 cents, trading 22.47 last. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei posted a gain of 609 points. That's a little over 2%. The Shanghai dropped 29. The Hang Seng fell 318 points, which is a little over 1.25%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 26, DAX down 112, the CAC down 63. That gives us a mixed day in Asia. It was a mixed day in the UK. And so far, it is a quiet, slightly mixed, I think we need to just say slightly red Radio Friday here in the US of A. Yep, at S&P cash market just flipped red. So it is a quiet red Friday here so far. With that, we'll go to Michael and get a recap of everything that happened this morning in the live training room. After that, I'll be back. We'll go over the logic alerts, the concierge trade alerts, and Garrett will be joining us during the show today. So if you have questions for myself, Michael, Valerie, Garrett, Bert, anybody, just type them in the chat box. We're always happy to answer your questions. All you got to do is type it in. Okay, Michael, I can see your charts.
Excellent.
It's all yours.
All right.
You ready? Take it away.
Here we go. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, the 24th day of September, 2021. If you've not taken a free trial with us and you want to, then go to the homepage here at eminitrainingschool.com. Now, on this page, all that we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us the biggest trading channel so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click that confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial, so you're going to make sure you click on that confirmation link, okay? Okay, spreadsheet. Now, I got to say this. I had an error in the spreadsheet that I found yesterday, and I corrected it. I don't know if I did this on the radio show yesterday or not, but I corrected it. This number right here had been pulling from right here instead of pulling from right here. And so it made this number wrong, and this number wrong, and this number wrong. But it is corrected, and all those numbers are now right. All right, so here we go. Today's the 24th day of September 2021. Today we made 6 ticks in crude. We ended up break even in gold, and we had 20 on the ES. Put us at plus 310 on the morning session. Okay, plus 310 on the morning session. Today it took 4 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we were up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 21 trades. So on the month now, we are up $8,197.50. So we're 17 trading days, averaging $482 per contract per 2-hour trading day. On the year, we've gotten our goal in 182 out of 185 days. That puts us at $108,200 per contract per 2-hour trading day. That's over 185 days, averaging $584 per contract. Okay, so now I corrected this. So this number is more accurate. Yesterday, that was like 130 something or something much larger. And this was too, but it's corrected. So now if you were to quit when you got the goal for the day and you added 1 contract per month, you would have worked a total of 51.47 hours now. And your average hourly rate over the period of the year would be $2,135. That after commissions net, if you took every single trade exactly as I did, you would have had 2,936 round turn trades if you got filled on every single one exactly right and all that. And your net would be $86,434. Okay, so that is $86,434 for working 51.47 hours. It's like a week of work for 86 grand. Not too bad. But of course, you spread it over the year, trade it a whole bunch of times. Anyway, back here to what we actually did. Okay, today the least amount of trades we took, well, we didn't take a whole bunch anywhere, so I'll just start out with the ES. Okay, on the ES, here, let me do this. On the ES, we started out, was this today? Yeah, this is today. Okay, yeah, I drew this morning to show where this should go in this movement right here. I didn't follow up on it this morning after we got up here and started going sideways and choppy toward the zone. But I did say this morning when I drew that, because what that was this leg length right here. Okay, so I drew it again when this started, and it didn't give us any trading opportunities on the way up here. I said that this should go up here, but if it goes this far, and this was back here when I was saying that, if it goes this far, it's probably going to go right to the zone, and that's what it did end up doing. Now, we didn't end up trading any of that, but we did take a break-even trade here. And then the first one we took here, 2 ticks, then a break-even, then 6 ticks to put us at +8. Then it was going up here. Now, this one here, I had said way back here. This one I had said way over here, and it eventually got to all of that. I missed a trade in there, and right in here we picked up 6 more ticks to put us at +12. I believe, is that 6 there or is that 4? No, that was 4 ticks there to put us at. We were already at +8, so we had 4 ticks there to put us at +12. And then I missed a short right here, and I picked up 8 more right here to put us at +20. Okay, we had a break-even trade right there, and then get into the break. During the break, looks like there was a long trade here that would have been a break-even, and one more long trade right here that you'd probably still be in right now. And if you were still in that, I would be looking for that to get up to 44.43 right now. Oops, hang on. I had my cursor in the wrong place to do that. 44.43 is where this should go. And it probably will by the time I'm done talking right now. Okay, so that's all of that. Now, let me go over here to the crude. All right, on the crude, JA, are you in here right now? Just got your message. No, you're not. Okay. All right, on the crude, the first trade of the day was right here. We picked up 10 ticks on that very first trade. We were expecting it to get to right here, and it went right through it. The next trade after that, we picked up 1 tick to put us at +11. Then we went from +11 to, I think we had 3 more ticks right there to get us to +14. Okay, then we had a break even. Then we stopped out. That put us back to +6. And that is where we ended with +6 from the morning session. Okay, I had messed up the way I was putting everything down, and so I had a little confusion in here, but we ended up with +6. We had a break even right here, and I was saying that this right here in the partners meeting last night, there were things that we were looking at, and one of the things was, when you get a trade set up like this where everything is saying it should go down, except the trend is questionable, look and see if it should get to the point where you'd move your stop to break even. Okay, and in this case right here is what I was looking at. Was that enough to get the stop to break even? Yes, it was. So that's why I took the trade. I ended up with a break even, but I was suggesting it should get down to this point, and then this point, and then the Dom was suggesting it should go down to here. So it got us to break even, then it pulled back, and then it got down to those 2 points exactly, and then it pulled back and started going the other way. Now, if I'd been watching, we could have traded off the BBC right here. Would have been a trend line trade as well as a BBC trade to grab that, but it would have been a break even trade for me. But I wasn't watching. during the break, there was one more long trade right here, and there's another one setting up right now, right here. Now on crude, this one should go, and I'm almost sure it will go, and it'll probably do it by the time I'm done talking. Up to here. Okay. So that said, the ES, by the time I'm done talking, I said right there, the crude, by the time I'm done talking, probably be right there. Now let's go to the gold. Okay, because the gold gave me a run today, and then it whooped me. Right here, we had a break even. Then our first trade on gold. Now I messed up all the way I was keeping track of the gold too. I was mixing up the gold and the crude. But you can see I was putting the numbers out here for the pullback areas and the target numbers, and it was doing pretty much all of it the way that it should. But we had a break even on the first trade. We had a +5 right here. Then we stopped out. That put us at -3. Then we stopped out again. And see, this is where things got mixed up. We stopped out again. That put us at -11. Okay, and then we started making it all back. We had something right here that got us, well, we had a little bit of profit right here, and then we had a chunk right here. Now this chunk right here got us from, we got from -11 to minus something else, and this right here, I think it was 9 ticks, got us to -2. And then we had a break even right there. I missed all of these trades right here, right at 11 o'clock. And I got the 2 back right here. So that put us back to break even on the gold. Okay. And right now, gold just gave a long from right in here, gave a long. Now, one of the things that I discussed last night in the meeting, and I'll just show this to you. You see how my support and resistance dots are black instead of blue, instead of green and red. That's because whether they're support or resistance depends on what direction you're coming at them from. If you're coming from the bottom, they're resist. If you come in the resistance, if you're coming from the top, they're support. Okay, so I made them black, and that was part of the meeting last night. But you have to go into the meeting to see the whole thing. Now, that said, gold right now, and it should be there by the time I'm done talking, 54.4. I know that's just right up above us, but I'm running out of time here for my talking. So 54.4. The ES is pulled back to give you another opportunity at this level. Crude oil, it hasn't pulled back yet, but it's still heading to this level. Okay, so we ended the gold on the morning session at break even. We ended the ES with +20, and we ended the crude with +6. Now we could have doubled up on the crude right here, and we'd be at, well, the entry point was, well, here. The entry point was right there. So the stop goes to break even on that, and it's trying to get up right there to 94. 74, sorry. And the ES is working its way up to this level right here, but I said that when it was down here. And it's just pulling back and give you another shot at it. So, no, that should work out too. Gold just needs to finish, the green line needs to finish this last little push right here, get up into the cycle, and then that'll hit that number, and everything will be ducky. Now, there was one other thing that I went over in the morning session. Okay, I just wanted to point out, and I went over this for a couple of reasons. This is TradingView right here, okay? Now we have our indicators on TradingView and what I was pointing out in the morning session. This is Bitcoin. So you can use our same indicators. This is on a daily chart. Use our same indicators with cryptocurrencies. You can use them with equities. Now, once we get onto TradingView for good here, this is, now I have this right now. Dwayne has this, and well, Burr has this, but nobody else has it yet. But as we move into this arena, the TradingView arena, you can see the indicators are still doing the same thing. Everything's working the way it should be. And this opens up a whole new world to you, because right here, this is Bitcoin. You know, you have Bitcoin futures you can trade. You have Bitcoin itself that you can trade with the cryptocurrencies. And, you know, if you want to trade a different crypto, like, you know, Algorand is one of the ones I've been holding on to for a while here. So I'll just do Algorand. And you can see this is the daily chart of Algorand. Now I bought Algorand, I actually bought it in February. So I bought it way back here, February 21st, way back here. Okay, but you can see that it's giving you the same indications. You know, when When price hits the BBC, you have bullish separation, you expect it to go up. Hits BBC, bullish separation, you expect it to go up. Right now, it's looking like it's probably going to go down. But one of the other things that you're going to be able to get into here very soon is, and I'm trying to do this. Okay, these are equities. This is a stock. See, price pulls back down, hits the BBC, you got bullish separation, up it goes. Pulls back down, hits the BBC, bullish separation, up it goes. Right here, right now, this is State Street stock on New York Stock Exchange. Pulls up, hits the BBC, bearish separation. Where should it go? Down, right? Okay, so what does this do? Well, first it opens up the equities by themselves if you want to trade equities, but it opens up options on equities. If you have a pretty good idea that this is going to go down from here to here, and this is on a daily chart, and you can see on a daily chart, this is like a week right here, a week right here. So when it bounces off the BBC, it takes like a week for it to move. So from here down to here, we'll look at this. Like if I take a screenshot of this, I will right now, and we'll look at this again next Friday. Okay, we'll look at this again next Friday and see if it's not down here toward 80. Okay, so what you could do right now is buy some put options, consider put options anyway, and we'll see where it goes next week. Buy something that doesn't have any time value in it because you don't really care that much about the time value. So the option should be cheaper that expires sooner. Just throwing this out there, it's not financial advice or anything like that. You should consult your financial advisor. But I'm just showing you what we have coming up here. Okay, just to give you all an idea. Okay. All right. That said, let me get back to where I was. I'm sorry I'm dragging this out, Dwayne. Here we go, back to the spreadsheet. Now, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Now, Mike, that was a daily chart that I was looking at right there. Okay, so it's going to open up a whole new world to everyone. Today's the 24th day of September 2021. We made 6 ticks in crude and 20 ticks on the ES, put us at plus 310 per contract this morning. Today it took 4 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 21 trades this morning. Okay, so on the month now, we're at $8,197. That's over 17 trading days, averaging $482 per contract per 2-hour trading day. On the year, we've gotten our goal in 182 out of 185 days. And that now puts us at $108,200 a contract. That's over 185 trading days, averaging $584 per contract per 2-hour trading day. If you were to stop trading when you got your goal for the day and you added 1 contract per month and did everything exactly the same as I did, you would have traded a total of 51.47 hours so far this year just to keep getting your goal. And you would have averaged $2,135 per hour. Okay, placed 580 total trades, and yeah, and so your net after commissions with an $8 round turn, that is. Now, a lot of you guys have a lot better than $8 round turn with 2,936 round turns. That $3 a turn is going to make a big difference right there. It's a $10,000 difference in the overall commission. But I wanted to go with the worst case scenario there. Okay. That's good, Mike. It's coming. It's coming. All right. So that's all that stuff. Now, if you've not taken a free trial with us and you want to, then go here to eminitrainingschool.com. On this page, put in your first name, your email, and your phone number. Tell us your biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that. Okay, if you don't click on it, we don't know that you took the free trial. Okay, Dwayne, it's all yours. Now I'm going to pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Bang.
No worries, no worries. All good stuff. Good stuff.
Good. Now I want to throw this out there for anyone. If anybody wants to meet with me today or over the weekend to talk about anything, if you just want to have a chat with me or if you want to set up a meeting with me, I have one set up for this afternoon. I got to go do a couple of things right now, but my number is 617-943-3298. You can text me at that number. Don't leave me a voicemail. My voicemail is full. But you can text me at that number, and I'll get back to you. Okay? Again, it's 617-943-3298. Thanks, guys. It's all yours, Dwayne.
You won't find that many places. Recap of the recap.
4 minutes, one trade, $100 per contract.
Good job. As always.
Thank you.
Okay, so you just saw what happened this morning in the live training room during the 2 hours that the room is open every day. Our Logic 247 Emini alerts, which includes crude, gold, and silver. The channel, the alert channel itself, opens for business on Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when the global markets open. And the alert channel stays open around the clock, 24/7, until Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. So you just saw what happened this morning in the live training room. Here's what's happened all week with Logic 247. We have issued a total of 77 alerts. 6 of them never triggered. We're still waiting on the outcome of 8. We've had 63 actionable alerts, of which 3 or 5% would have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible, using market structure and a very simple 3-step process that we teach all of our traders. We also have our original alert service, which is the concierge trade alerts. Now, yesterday, the performance on the CTAs was just outstanding because we had some very active markets. The S&P, the Dow, and the NQ all had moves worth over $2,000 per contract traded. As we go to the charts here in just a bit, we'll look at today's concierge trade alerts. We won't see the same type of results simply because the market did not move quite as much. But I'm going to drag up on the screen right now the CTAs from last night. Now, the logic alerts are based on current price action and they come out around the clock. The concierge alerts, this is our original alert service, they come out as a static report shortly after the Globex Open. Once published, these numbers are good for the entire session. Once triggered, an alert will most likely trigger multiple times. In this example here, and you can grab a screenshot if you want for when we go to the charts, the way to handle it is once this report is published, go to your chart for the S&P as an example, draw a line in the sand at 44.58, draw a line in the sand at 44.21. If price starts trending up towards 58, then that's bullish, so you'll use the logic alerts and everything you learn in the live training room to find opportunities to buy the market or be long. If price starts trending down towards 44.21, that's bearish, and so you'll use the logic alerts and everything you learn in the live training room to find opportunities to sell the market or be short. The CTAs cover the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver, all the same markets that Logic 247 covers. Now, a couple of headlines we'll go over, and then we'll jump into the charts. Tech giants are suing Texas. Groups representing Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are suing Texas over a social media censorship law they say would protect pro-Nazi speech and terrorist propaganda. And all I'm going to say about that is don't believe everything you hear, okay? You need to take a closer look at those laws and what they're intended to do. They're not intended to protect what's being accused here. Big news out of Twitter today. Twitter will now allow users to send and receive tips in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin tipping feature was previously available only to select users. Now all users can tip with crypto. But here's the key. You can do a lot more than just tip. If you have someone in, say, El Salvador, friend or family member, someone that you know, and you need to send them some money, well, you could go down to Western Union, you could pay a pretty substantial fee, and some number of days later, they will actually receive their funds. If we don't typically recommend shorting stocks on this program, we don't talk a lot about stocks. We will more in the future as we roll out our indicators on the TV platform. But Western Union is about to be put out of business. If you want to send $10 to your friend in El Salvador, you can send $10 for 0.09 cents, and it's there like that, and you don't even have to own any crypto. Now, they've built this off the Strike platform. They rolled this out earlier in the year. It's been available to select users, but this really changes the landscape. Strike is available to people in El Salvador, the U.S., excluding Hawaii and New York. The compensation, they're presenting it as a tipping platform because I don't think they wanted to see it as an all-out assault on Western Union. But the days of Western Union, or even going to Walmart and using MoneyGram, that's quickly becoming horse and buggy. Right now, Western Union is trading well off its all-time historic highs, but once this really sinks in, once people understand the ramifications of what Twitter's doing, all the other platforms are going to move to do it as well, okay? And it's a true game changer. You may have heard of Launch House. That's a place where founders pay to live and work in big, fancy mansions. Well, they're facing scrutiny over safety. After a party and a COVID-19 outbreak, some venture capitalists and people who signed up for the co-living experience said the community was at times poorly controlled and potentially unsafe. Think of Animal House, where everybody's got billions and billions of dollars or access to that kind of money. Yeah. Mercedes-Benz, the EQS, their latest model, is going to hit dealerships later this year. The EQS is Mercedes' all-electric competitor to Tesla's Model S. It's a beautiful vehicle, I've got to tell you. In fact, I think I have a picture. Yeah, let me show you just the dashboard of this thing. The whole dash. It's a touchscreen. And there's even a touchscreen in back for the passengers. True story. That'll cost you over 100 grand, but it is a beautiful, beautiful car. Amazon's planned department stores. Now, guys, you've heard me talk about this for a couple of years. The day's coming, I believe, when you'll get your gas at the Amazon gas store, or you'll get your electric charge at the Amazon electric charging station. You'll bank with Amazon. You'll buy your health insurance, your life insurance. Pretty much everything you buy or touch will have the Amazon brand attached to it. Now, Amazon has plans for department stores. These department stores will have robots and dressing room touchscreens. Sources told the Wall Street Journal that the department stores could utilize QR codes and have futuristic dressing rooms with touchscreens for requesting more clothes. The Theranos founder, Elizabeth Holmes, her trial is ongoing. We've talked about it a couple times over the last few weeks. You really should listen to some of the podcasts. The company is Theranos, Theranos. The founder, Elizabeth Holmes, she dropped out of Stanford, I believe it was, to start this company. This is one of the most elaborate scams ever perpetrated in, I think it even goes beyond what Bernie did. Bernie made off with all the money, but Elizabeth did it in a very different way, with a blood testing machine that never actually worked, but she still managed to get it into Walgreens. I even had my blood tested unknowingly by a Theranos machine. I was going through the glove box of my truck, and I found a receipt, and I looked at it, and lo and behold, it was when I'd got a blood test years ago. It had the Theranos logo at the bottom. Tesla wants the White House to increase penalties for automakers who don't meet fuel efficiency standards. Tesla right now sells credits to other automakers to help them meet government vehicle emissions requirements, and they say those credits are rapidly losing value. Apple's going to give its retail employees bonuses of up to $1,000. Retail employees hired before March 31st will get $1,000. Those hired after will receive $500. And Amazon leaked documents show that Amazon is working on a plan to roll out Alexa Guard to vehicles, plus
Happy
the
to
company...
help. If you want me to start guarding your home, you can say, Alexa, set up guard.
Alexa, stop. Did you guys hear that? I said her name, and she heard me talk about the guard system, and she started telling me how to get it. It's going to bring home security to your car. I'm telling you. I don't want to say he's going to take over the world, but well, you can read into it whatever you want. CDC has cleared Pfizer booster shots for seniors and vulnerable people. The U.S. Special Envoy for Haiti, Daniel Foote, has resigned over what he called the Biden administration's inhumane decision to deport thousands of Haitian migrants to their home country as it struggles with threats from armed gangs controlling widening areas. And a draft of the audit report confirms that Biden actually beat Trump right here where I stand in Maricopa County. So, well, there it is. Everybody wanted the truth. Do we know that that's the truth? I don't know. I know we've spent a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money and a whole lot of man hours arriving at this conclusion that Joe Biden won the election. Well, that was announced last year. So, what are you going to do? And I think that's going to do it. Federal agencies are preparing for the possible shutdown. The budget office at the White House yesterday told federal agencies to prepare for a partial government shutdown in case negotiators in Congress fail to reach a funding deal. The request following a tradition of getting ready to shut non-essential offices and services 7 days before agencies run out of money that they need to stay open. Democrats and Republicans have said they plan to approve a stopgap spending measure before funding runs out on September 30th, but negotiators can't seem to get past several sticking points. And another mass shooting. Our hearts and thoughts are with these folks in Memphis, Tennessee. At a Kroger grocery store yesterday, a gunman opened fire, killing at least one person and injuring 12 more. What a horrible and needless tragedy. All right, let's go to the charts. S&P 500 E-mini futures. Last night in the workshop, price was right here at the 62% fib and the daily BBC. That's the green line, stands for bull, bear, cross. Prices above it were bullish, price below it were bearish. We have spent more days consecutively below the BBC over the last 11 sessions than any time all year. We had a leg, a retracement to the BBC, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't, the pullback held, gave us a leg all the way down, it gave us a retracement below what would have been 100% fib retracement. What you're seeing now are reverse fibs. Reverse fibs, instead of drawing from the low to the high, you draw from the high to the low. Well, from the low, we've managed to get up through the 38, the 50, we got through the step line, we got through red and falling, and here we are hovering. Now price to this morning, overnight we dipped down to the 50% reverse fib, bounced right off of it, right back to the 62. When we were in the workshop last night, we were right at this spot, price-wise. And we talked in depth, and I put it in the discussion group on Telegram, that what needs to happen if buyers are going to take us back to challenge the all-time historic high, we've got to take out the 62. We've got to take out the high of yesterday, Thursday, and then we have this bearish cross right here. And we know that when we have a bullish or bearish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits the area of the cross, in this case the bearish cross, that most likely represents potentially good resistance. So buyers truly have their work cut out for them. They've got to overcome the 62, today's high, yesterday's high, the bearish cross. If we can get above 44.80 and hold that on a pullback, that's when we'll make our run at the all-time historic high. Obviously, the path of least resistance at this point is to the downside, and that's shown by how quickly we were able to drop from the 62 to the 50% reverse fib. But when we hit a fib on a daily chart, what do we expect? We expect a reaction. Now, we are intraday traders, day traders as we're called, but we trade around the clock. We look at 5-minute charts and 30-minute charts and range charts, but the institutional traders, the big boys, the deep pockets, okay, they look more at daily, weekly, monthly charts. And so when an important fib number is hit on the daily chart, and you guys see it happen here over and over again and again, can't stress it enough. Look what happened. We came down, we touched that 50, and right back up. So buyers and sellers are really duking it out here. Okay, who will emerge the victor? Only time will tell. Anybody can predict the outcome, and half of them will be right, kind of like a coin flip. But we don't rely on coin flips. We rely on our methodology, our strategy, and our indicators, because they tell us with great certainty what the next high probability move is. But we're at a point right now where we have so many things coming together, we have to let price and our indicators simply do their job so that we can, in fact, determine what the next high probability move is. We said last night, as long as price was below the daily BBC, then the most likely trip would be down to the 50. That happened, but then we bounced right back. Okay, so buyers have not given up this battle by any stretch of the imagination, but neither have the sellers. So let's jump to the 30-minute chart of the S&P. Now, these are the CTAs from last night. That was that chart I just told you. If you wanted to grab a screenshot, you could. Now, we had some huge $2,000 per contract moves off the CTAs yesterday. But today, we got price just basically trading inside of these zones. We did break last night, and I drew this in, I think, last night during the workshop. And so that window of opportunity did fill. Price did get below the weekly trading zone. We never triggered the CTA on the long side, although we had logic alerts trading. These are the concierge trade alerts. Hey, we finally triggered, and on this first little drop, we dropped to 44.18 and a half. So it's 2.5 points. So if 2 points is your daily goal, you could have got it here, you could have got it here. Then price got back above the trigger, dropped again. Now this time, we dropped to 44, we'll call it 44.16 to be conservative. That's 5 points at $50 a point. That's $250 per contract traded. Price got back above the trigger, dropped again. This time the low was 44.17, so that's 4 points, $50 a point, $200 per contract traded. And then we got back above the trigger, triggered again. This time we dropped to 44.15, that's 6 points. And we got back above the trigger and we dropped to 44.11, that's 10 points. All off one alert. Now you might say, well, that's you know, this happens almost daily. Once an alert triggers, there's a greater probability of it triggering multiple times than not triggering multiple times. I really cannot stress that enough. It's so important. One alert, one trigger, two trigger, three trigger, four trigger, five trigger, and the fifth one being worth 10 points, $50 a point, $500 per contract traded. Price has now gotten back above the BBC. That's the green line. We're bullish above it, bearish below it. Everything we do is fluid across all markets, all time frames. So anything I said about the daily chart, the same thing is true on the 30-minute chart as it would be on a 1-minute or even a range chart. So where's price most likely to go from here? If buyers keep the pressure on, we'll run into an obstacle here at the swing high, 44.45. Beyond that, the weekly trading zone, which held the market in check yesterday, the vertical line separates yesterday, Thursday, from today, Friday. So this was the opening candle last night. We ran right up to the zone, got rejected. We overshot the zone here, triggered the CTA 5 times. Price on the Wall Street open this morning got us back above the BBC. And then what did price do? It pulled right back to the BBC. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean just happens to be green, and it has a name, BBC, Bull Bear Cross. When price pulls back to a weekly zone, we expect that to be good support until proven otherwise. When price pulls back to the BBC, we expect that to be good support until proven otherwise. So this is support times 2, because we have 2 reasons why this pullback should hold right here, and it did. And from 40 to 44.29, we put in a high up at 44.42. Okay, over 10 points. 12.13. Now, as you learn our methodology and our strategy, okay, you don't have to wait for an alert to give you an opportunity to trade in the market. Logic 247 does its very best to always provide you with high probability, low risk trading opportunities, but there will be moves that you just simply spot on your own. As you see that this zone is holding, that the pullback to the BBC is holding, then you know how to get long. Michael and Valerie teach you the rules of engagement for 2 hours every trading day in the live training room. And so from here, buyers keep buying. We've got a potential obstacle at the swing high, 44.45. If we get past that, then we'll look for resistance here at 44.48. On the Dow, we had no CTA trigger on the long side or the short side. The Dow has simply been consolidating. We opened here last night. We attempted to rally. We ran into red and falling. That sent us back to the BBC and the weekly zone. Resistance always sends the market looking for support. Support sends the market looking for resistance. And so we got a bearish cross right here at the weekly zone. And what did price do? It traveled right down to the next weekly trading zone, where we expected to find good support, and it did. Now that moved from 34.615 down to 34.475. What is that? 615 minus 475. That's 140 points at $5 a point. That's $700 per contract traded, just on a simple zone to zone move. Only 3 things happen at a weekly trading zone. The most likely is consolidation. The second most likely is rejection. The third and least likely It's called the slice. And here's a perfect example of the slice. Price sliced through the zone like it wasn't even there. But what did it do then? What it typically does, it retraced back to the zone it sliced through. It's in the process of consolidating, and now we look for a continued move to the upside, which may potentially lead us up to the long CTA trigger. On the Russell, no trigger on the long side. Again, this vertical line separates today from yesterday, and these CTA numbers are the ones that were posted last night on that chart I just showed you. Okay, so for the Russell, the CTA was 2240. And so we triggered and we dropped to 38.30. Not quite 2 points. Then we got back above the trigger, dropped again. And this time we dropped 2.5 points. And then we got back above the trigger. And on the third trigger, we made it all the way to the target. The target was the weekly zone below. On every short alert, the final trade to target is the zone below. On every long alert, the final trade to target is the zone above. And so it came pretty as you please on the 9:30 opening candle this morning on Wall Street, from 2240 to 2233. That's 7 points at $50 a point. It's $350 per contract traded. Now, what's most likely to happen here, okay, we're retracing back to the weekly trading zone and the BBC. So that's support times 2. The fact that you've got blue and climbing in the mix, it's really support times 3. So this is what we'll anticipate is a pullback right into this area. We expect that to be good support until proven otherwise. And then potentially a rally into the afternoon if the markets don't start selling off here. All right, the NQ. Okay, no trigger on the long side for the NQ CTA, but we did trigger on the short side. On the first trigger, it took us down to a swing low at 15,206. So 53 minus, was that 47? Yeah. So 47 points at $20 a point. It's $940 per contract traded. Now, price attempted to pull back up and get above the trigger, but it didn't quite make it. Okay? Sometimes that happens. Just a few more ticks and we would have called this an official second trigger. Those who have learned our methodology and our strategy will have still most likely have taken advantage of this move. Where to? To the weekly zone, where it found support, as it did yesterday. Now, these weekly zones are published for our members Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. We've published the zones since December 14th of 2009, over a decade, and they have served us extremely well all those years. Now, we finally made it back above the trigger, and we did have a nice move to the downside. But you got to be very cautious on this one, because on a short trade, you want red and falling on your side, okay? But on this move up to the trigger, above the trigger, red and falling turned to blue and climbing, which represents support. So we did trigger and we did drop, but we ran right into blue and climbing, and that stopped the market dead in its tracks and sent price back up above the BBC, above the trigger. Possible, if we consolidate sideways here, we could get another drop that would take us back through the trigger. We have a bearish cross right up here. If price continues higher, there's potential resistance right there. If we get through that area, then we have potential resistance here, here, and here. So it's going to be an uphill battle. Path of least resistance is actually to the downside. And the market looks like right now it wants to retrace to the BBC. If it holds, then we'll have an opportunity to trade back up to this resistance area. But once we hit the resistance area, I'd be very, very cautious about any trades on the long side. But we'll watch and see if in fact this doesn't come right back to the BBC. Price always reverts to the mean, like it did here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. Okay? Alright, so that's the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, the NQ. Let's go to crude oil. The CTA last night on crude was 73.60 on the long side. The short side never triggered. Now this first little pop only took us up to 60 bucks. Okay, basically price got rejected at the CTA. You can think of the CTA much like you do a weekly trading zone. Price behaves around a CTA very much like it behaves around a weekly trading zone. So price got to the area, slammed it right back down to the BBC and the weekly zone, which was good support as we anticipate. Price gets back above the BBC, loses momentum, and this is beautiful here. Price pulls down to the weekly zone at 73/7305, gives us a nice doji, and then we're off to the races. Here's the Wall Street opening bell. We trigger 73.60. We're now trading 74.11. That's $500 per contract traded. The target is way up at 75.20. Now, will the market have enough of the right stuff to get there during today's session? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next. Nobody does. Lots of people pretend they do. What we do know is what the next high probability move is, and we know that with great certainty. Would that be Garrett, I hear?
Yes, sir.
Garrett. Welcome to the show.
How are you?
Good. How's your Friday?
Good so far.
It's overcast and rainy, or it's overcast. The rain hasn't started yet, but they tell us it's on the way, which is well,
yeah.
People in other parts of the country are like, "Why is this guy making such a big deal over the rain?" Well, I live in the desert, so it's kind of a big deal when it rains here. So.
Yeah, we have gotten very little rain out here too. Not in the desert, but Northern California. So Bay Area. So
shall I send you over the charts?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I don't even know that I have anything particularly exciting today, but maybe.
Well, if you want, we'll just take a look. Okay. All right. You should get a pop-up on your side.
Yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Okay. There's a bunch of squigglies on the screen, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, over here is the dailies, and this is a CCI average. So, you know, generally when the red line comes up through the yellow line, you've got a buy signal, and when it goes down, you've got a sell signal. Here's my indicator, which is MACD based, and it's coming up from a lower level. The stochastic was way down here at the lows, and now is working its way back. If that was if this is just a correction, then this probably shouldn't go too much higher. We're right in the middle on the RSI at about 50 here. The hourly got oversold down here, ran back up, and got a little overdone, and has had a correction. It had a little sell signal here yesterday around the highs, and so the hourly is trying to figure out whether it's had enough of the correction is going to turn around and go back up, or if it's if we're going to see some more action to the downside. The VIX indicator, which isn't that, but it is this. The VIX indicator right here went out of the upper band, which means you're usually getting a slam to the downside, which is what happened right here. Mm-hmm. That's when you went into that low. What was that? A week ago, Friday, whatever. But that's when you got that low, and then of course if it keeps running, you keep going down. But it found support here, and then came back with a rally. And when this is outside of the upper band and comes back inside, it's a sell signal for the VIX. The VIX is going to go down, but it's generally a buy signal for the market, and that happened, down around here as it turned.
We've had two back-to-back days, Wednesday and Thursday this week, very bullish. Today the market's really being put to the test. Who's going to win this battle, buyers or sellers? And this is the RSI on the VIX, and it's been up at 70, over 70, which is, generally, quite oversold, and that's where it bottomed. These dark lines here are down at 40. It's at 46 now. If it gets down to 40, that's probably, just in general, that's where you want it to be if you're thinking of selling the market. So it's headed in that direction. It hasn't been there for a while. What else was I going to show you? These indicators, like I say, this doesn't have to get up too far, and we are. This is the McClellan oscillator here, and it was oversold down at minus 150 or whatever it was. So it's back into the positive territory. And this is the 10-day AD line. It was down at minus, whatever it was, 600 or 700. Let's see what it is. Yeah, it was down at, I think it's minus 500 there. So it was down, minus 700. What's considered an extreme number?
I'll show you. That's pretty extreme. It was, I don't know why I'm not seeing, we can do it this way. Yeah, minus 650. So this lower band that I have here, when you get down there, you're getting pretty oversold unless something special is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So these areas, along with some of the other indicators and where they might be, this is down there pretty good. Generally you're going to turn, as you can see. Here, this was the wipeout low for COVID, and you got down to what, minus 1400 here. This is, and of course that was an extreme correction. This is probably the Christmas sell-off here. Yeah, December of 2018. So this was a pretty good sell-off too, and it was down around 1,000.
That was the worst December since 1932, I think it was.
Yeah. So, that was, December's usually a pretty good month. So it got hit pretty good over here. And otherwise, you can see, and then this turned up here, and then if it's not through going down, we probably shouldn't get very much higher here before it heads lower. What else do we have? I was just horsing around with this. This is a weekly chart of the S&P. This is a 50-week moving average.
Now, this is the cash index, guys, not the futures contract. So,
right. And I just put this in to kind of look at, generally, unless you get a pretty good sell-off like here in 1998, you're going to remain above the 50-week moving average in a bull market.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you're below it here temporarily, here and here temporarily. But then above it, come down and test it.
This is the
and then
.com crash that we're looking at right here.
Yeah, except it's the S&P. But
Yeah.
the NASDAQ, this dropped about 57% down to here, 57.7% from high to low. The NASDAQ dropped 83.5%.
Yeah, the
So,
.com crash took all the markets down.
But here's what happens once you top. And there, initially, you come back up to the 50-week moving average and hit it maybe one more time and one more time here. But other than that, you remain below it. And this one here is the 40-week moving average, which is essentially a 200-day moving average. And for the most part, you're even below that in a bear market.
Mm-hmm.
So bear markets get pretty wild rallies every now and then, earth-shattering rallies.
Yeah.
But once those rallies are over, you're headed south again.
And this bounce that we're in today, in fact, we talked earlier in the week, a couple days ago, about the potential for a dead cat bounce, as it's called. And we're really at the decision point right now in the S&P 500. If we close bearish today, that sets a bearish tone for the open Sunday night. If we can take out today's high and yesterday's high on the S&P, then that sets a very bullish tone for Sunday night.
Yeah, this now that's not a very good chart to see, but you've come up to kind of the mid-range of the Bollinger Band. Here, let's blow it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've come up. I think this is. I believe that's a 50-period moving average. Usually, I have them labeled. Yeah. But there is one other chart I was going to show you. Let's see if it's one. It's probably this one.
Mm-hmm.
This I just drew after this happened, because we went down a little bit below 100-period moving average. This is a 50% retracement
Now,
right
this
to
is
here.
This is a current. This is a current chart right now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the cash chart right here.
Gotcha.
And I had put that if you're going to get a normal logical correction and you've broken this channel that's been there for a while, that you're probably not done on this thing. And maybe you should come up at that point. I had the intersection of this downtrend line right there, which is today, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, this is probably a logical place to come to, maybe even today, right there. And I had a target here and at the 618 retracement of this decline.
That's right.
And
exactly.
it went up.
Yep.
It went up to the 618, then it squirted above it a little bit, but it came back down and closed within that box. I eliminated. I had a thing that said target over here, and I had a little box around here, basically from the 50% to the 618, because generally your retracements fall into that area unless it's really weak. And when you have such a good channel like this, lots of times you just come up and hit it underneath.
Yep.
And
that's actually called I've heard it called a trader Vic. There's a trader named Vic who wrote a book, and he talked about that very type of price pattern where you break out of a channel and then you come back up, and in this case you would just kiss the bottom side of it and then immediately continue down. But
yeah,
this popped back into the channel, so not a trader Vic.
Yeah, I mean, this did a couple of things yesterday. Number one, it popped into the channel, and also in this downtrend channel right there. It also popped above that temporarily. So it probably to draw everybody in, so the guys who want to get out of this thing can get out. And then if this is a wave 1 down here, this low, and a wave 2, your wave 4, if that's what that is, went above it. So that violates an Elliott wave rule. And normally that would get your attention and say, okay, this is, if it's going to go down, then it's going to be a diagonal pattern, and maybe it's not going to go down because it showed pretty good strength, at least temporarily. So, and that's kind of where we are now. What's it going to do here? I think there's overwhelming things that are negative. Again, that's fundamental stuff, and we're talking technical here, so I understand the the problem with that. But there are a lot of things.
The government, again, on the verge of shutting down because of not getting a budget approved.
And they've said they're going to taper. So you're probably looking at rates doing something.
I was surprised that the market reacted as positively as it did, based on the. I guess maybe the market knew that the taper was coming, and so to hear him actually put it into words, maybe the market had already built that in, because you would think that would have sent the markets skittering lower, but it didn't.
It's ridiculous. I've never heard so many people who never said it before, just because it was almost sacrilegious. But people just saying this market's flat out rigged. I mean, I'm talking guys that have been in the business for 30, 40, 50 years and more, going they've got this thing rigged. And some of the things that, who knows what's going to come out or what's going to happen. I think there's a normal, healthy viewpoint that says, this might be the battle between good and evil in the Bible. It certainly looks, like things are upside down. Things have been upside down to some degree, but nowhere near the degree that we've seen in the past few years. You haven't seen a news media aggressively attack a president like they did with President Trump.
Never.
And that's to most people, I've mentioned many times, there's a brainwashing process that's been in play. If people bother to do any research, it's out there. But if you use your TV for your source of news, which is what you ought to be able to do in an honest country,
right. Yeah.
That's you should be able to trust your news media. Clearly, irrespective of politics.
It's very difficult to find true news these days. Everything is colored with somebody's opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and you almost have to, because if you have fake news and news that's flat out dishonest, and we do have that now, and your fact checkers, the thing that's even more egregious, but I mean, again, you've got to take a look at the basics, and if the basics are saying these people, for whatever reason, are lying to you and have an agenda. And the reality is that the agenda's gone on for over 50 years, so we're just waking up to it now. I mean, I find this, I want to write something entitled, We Were Told Everything We Needed to Know in 1961. And I say that because we were. President Eisenhower came out with an impassioned warning, and 3 months later, 3 months and a week or so later, John F. Kennedy, the new president, one Republican, one Democrat, also came out with an impassioned warning. And we've talked about this before, but Eisenhower talked about the military-industrial complex, warning about it, and here he is a general, so that's pretty pretty nice. I mean, it's his own. He's talking about his own guys, so that takes a good, honest man to do that. So you have to respect what he's saying. John F. Kennedy came out talking about secret societies. So you kind of put those two together, and frankly, if you don't know anything about it, it's like, what the heck do they have to do with each other? What's a secret society? And though people who began to research that find out what secret societies are. 3 years later, Reagan, who was quite a number of years before becoming president, came out with 2 warnings. One had to do with the Democrats. And again, this is a person who was a lifelong Democrat who had just become a Republican. But his warning on the Democrats was interesting because it was done in 1964, and you have to go back to 1964 to see why that was interesting. What was wrong with the Democrats in 1964? But nothing, right? They were conservative. They weren't, you know, and by the way, when people...
the Democrat of 1964 bears practically no resemblance to the Democrat of today.
The Democrat of 1964 is more conservative than the Republican today, probably. The conservative.
That's well said.
Because,
well said.
Yeah, because we've been the people that fall into that category have been brainwashed too. It's not that, oh boy, these are Republicans and they're not brainwashed. It's only the Democrats. It's no, everybody's brainwashed. It's just that for whatever reason, when you have this type of a situation happen, the people doing it, and again, what do we hear? Conspiracy theory. It's not a theory. There's always a conspiracy after the peak of an empire. Tell me one that hasn't had a conspiracy. So once again, who's telling you conspiracy theory? Well, the people that are running the conspiracy. Why do they call it conspiracy theory and have you laugh at it, and they make jokes about it and have all the people that they own and control telling that, oh, those are the people that wear aluminum foil hats and are, you know, crazy as a $45 bill, you know. That's the comment. Well, that very easily removes what prior generations used to do when people used to be intelligent. I think people are still intelligent. They've just sadly been victimized, and all of us. The comment I would make is Socrates. Socrates used to, I mean, his whole deal and method of teaching, which is what we should have today, is look, there's 2 sides to the coin. There always is. We're on a planet of duality, so there's always 2 sides. So I said, you know, you take one, you take the other one, and battle it out. We'll sit back and watch. And when he got real interesting, he'd find somebody, he'd find a topic, and he'd say, okay, Mr. Student, Student A, what do you think about that topic? And then he'd wait around till he found another student who thought exactly the opposite. And he went, He says, okay. He says, I'm going to take you who is in favor of this, and I'd like you to argue the other side, and you who have the other side, I'd like you to argue his side. Now that's certainly a way to learn. You're forcing somebody to argue in favor of something you don't believe. So, and what do we have now? We have the complete shutting down of one side. What side? I mean, let's take University of California, and that's one of many, by the way. But that's where Mario Savio started out in 1964 with the free speech movement. But it hadn't caught on yet. And California, a university that I like and go see their football games, and you know, took classes there and spent time there and so forth. For such a supposedly intellectual university, isn't it interesting that nobody in 1964 was smart enough to go up to Mario Savio and say, what are you talking about, man? Free speech movement? We've had free speech for 171 years. Where were you? What are you pulling here? But the reality is, the people who have done the brainwashing get a guy like Mario Savio and tell him what to do, and back him with some money like Soros does and have him go out and do it. He's not doing anything about free speech. What he's doing is planting the seeds in a conservative university at that time to, number one, change it from being conservative and making it liberal, and number two, removing freedom of speech. Because everybody started to jump on the bandwagon. And what happened? The nice gals with their poodle skirts and their ponytails, and the nice guys with their crew cuts and whatever, shortly thereafter, we got a bunch of hippies. And they didn't think anything like the other student, because the other students pretty much thought along the lines of their parents, and both Republicans and Democrats were conservative. So conservative almost never is a problem. I'm not talking politically. I'm talking mentally, psychologically. Conservative is never a problem. It's always the basis. In other words, if you're building a pyramid, you know, whatever we're talking about in the pyramid, the base is the conservative, and it goes from there. And that's the way it works psychologically as well. When you're in a depression, what happens? Are you liberal or conservative in a depression? Well, you're conservative by definition. You know, you're starving. I mean, you might be starving. You might be out of a job. You're certainly not going to be liberal in the sense of with your money. What you're going to do is hold on to your money.
Yeah, the new Apple Watch, by the way, which goes on sale today, will be able to tell you if you're depressed.
We'll be able to tell you what?
If you're depressed.
Oh, wow.
Just
like
I did not make that up. It was a headline yesterday.
Do you remember the mood rings
I
back
do.
in the?
I do remember those.
Isn't it crazy how these things? I mean, I'm going back to 1961, and I wanted to go back and touch on that again. The best trader in the history of the stock market was probably W.D. Gann. He focused on a 60-year cycle as a real big deal with him. You go back 60 years, you're in 1961. You had a Democrat president warn you, a Republican president warn you. And the reason I brought up Reagan 3 years later, he did warn about the Democrats, which was very far-sighted of him, because the Democrats were conservative then. They weren't a problem, but he saw that changing, and he's absolutely right. That's where the liberals came from. They were part of the Democrat Party, and it was part of a plan. The other thing that Reagan said in his other warning of that year, 64, was that a small intellectual group from a far distant capital. Notice he didn't name anybody, he didn't tell you what the capital was, but he said these are the people in control. So if you take all those things and put them together, you go, okay, there's a secret society.
It's a small group of people from a far distant capital. Is that how it goes? Okay.
Yeah, and so it's a small group of people that are smart, and they're the conspiracy folks, and they're the ones who run the show. If you go back and listen to the speeches, which I've done many times with Eisenhower and Kennedy, what you hear them saying, if you do the homework, if you tie in what Reagan said, and then if you spend some time doing some homework, I spent about 49 years, so I can't speak on much, but I can speak on that. I got 49 years in there. Yeah, and what happens in 49 years? You go down a lot of wrong paths and you make a lot of mistakes. But you got 49 years of experience to do that and get back on the right path. That's what I did. I found the answer to this, and interestingly, I found the answer recently from a gentleman named Benjamin Friedman, who actually told the people in 1961 what was happening. Now, my write-up would say we were told everything we needed to know in 1961, ... but we didn't listen. We didn't listen then. We're not listening now. But what President Eisenhower and President Kennedy said essentially if you were to boil it down. They're talking about the military-industrial complex. They're talking about the secret societies. But they're really saying is this. I'm the president of the United States. The United States is the greatest country in the world at this time, by far. In fact, you could almost say there's two worlds. There's us and everybody else. What do I mean by that? Well, the next 10 countries at least, you would have to combine their GDP to match ours. And oh, by the way, I just wanted to point that out. But what my message is to those of you listening is that I'm not in charge. I'm not really in charge. Both of them were saying that. There's something else in charge. And of course, they can't say what it is. This gentleman in 1961, and I only ran into this lately. Now, by the way, I have all the information on this in a different format from a different gentleman and from different sources going way back before computers and the internet. So it's not new information for me, but I had not seen this video, which was done also in 1961. Isn't it crazy? Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, these 60-year cycles are apparently a big deal. Gann's right, but they were telling us that they weren't in control then. 60 years have passed. They're so much more in control now, it isn't even funny. Then you couldn't elect somebody in office who wasn't a conservative. Now look at what's happened in 60 years. Our freedom of speech is gone. Oh, a liberal said, mine isn't. I can say whatever I want. I said, yeah, you can. I agree. You know, and black people, you know, for the most part, can say whatever they want. But if you're a white person, you got to be real careful about what you say.
Oh boy, yeah, you better be careful.
You got to really watch what you say. A lot of other people don't have to. There's something inherently wrong with that. Voltaire long ago said, if you want to know who controls you, all you have to do is look at who you can't criticize. Well, you can criticize white Christians all day long, can't you?
Yeah, you
sure. So I guess we can put them out of the way. They're not the ones doing this. And you can criticize Hispanics, so you can put them out of the way. And you know what? You can probably criticize blacks. It's just not a good idea. You're gonna get some pushbacks on that. But there's certain, you know, why would it be that you know, who can't you criticize? Well, anti-Semitism is kind of a big deal for some reason. Why? I mean, why isn't there anti-Irishism?
Because Ben Friedman, he was an anti-Semitic.
Well, no, actually, if I'm not mistaken, Benjamin Friedman was a Zionist. And all of a sudden,
he was a vocal. Actually, it says now this. I just googled this up off Wikipedia. It says he was a vocal anti-Zionist.
He was, but he knew the complete inner workings of the Zionists, and that's what he explained. And this is where it gets tricky and dirty, and I've covered this before, because everybody who's Jewish, for the most part, just like the rest of us, and particularly Jewish people, have bought into the anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, wouldn't those of us who are white Christians want to buy into a anti-white Christian thing, that you can't say bad things about us? Well, that would be great, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to allow everybody else to say bad stuff about you? But we don't have that going on, do we? Which tells me one thing: we don't control the media, do we? Those of us that are white Christians don't control the media. That's for darn sure. Guess who does control the media? So you gotta look at this thing. And the problem with this is those good Jewish people, like the rest of us, just want to live a good life and do something and not bother anybody and not be bothered. And they're just like everybody else. But they're not the Zionists. And most of them don't even know their own history. And I didn't.
Benjamin was born into a Jewish family, and he later converted from Judaism to Roman Catholicism. I don't know if that has to do with perhaps the woman he married, Rose Schondorf.
Well, here's the difference. You can be Jewish and believe in Jesus Christ, who happened to be a Hebrew. He was God's person, to supposedly what's billed as the chosen people. But if you do your research and you listen to another Jewish person, Harold Wallace Rosenthal, he came out just like Benjamin Friedman did, but in a different way. He had not taken Christ as a savior, etc., of which a lot of Jews have. But what he came out with and said was different than Friedman. Same message. Message was the same, but he came out very strongly and said, "Yeah, I'm just going to tell you this. We're in control. There isn't a damn thing you can do about it, so I can tell you whatever you want." Now, the people didn't want him to do that because obviously there's not that many of them. They are in control. When people start to realize what it is, they ought to start asking questions. And other questions would be, how can we have people in our government who have dual citizenship? How do you do that? That should be wrong, but it's not. But the point here is, is that the good Jewish people, the used to be Judeans. They weren't Jews. They were Judeans. They were from Judea, right? And they were called Judeans. Those were the original Jewish people. Mm-hmm. Well, they didn't have any part of this. They weren't the Zionists. The Zionists were the Khazarians, who needed to take on a religion. They didn't care they didn't believe in God anyhow, so it didn't matter what religion they took on. They just realized that you had to have if you want to take over the world, you better have that kind of a base. You better come in looking like you believe in something. Otherwise, people are going to look at you sideways and not like you. So these people, and by the way, these people were the smartest people on the planet. Most evil, but the smartest. Highest IQ. You hear about the Jewish IQ? That's a result of 400 years of intermingling with the Khazarians, not because the Judeans had a higher IQ necessarily than their neighbors. If so, it was marginally higher. 400 years of intermingling with the Khazarians is what put the Jewish IQ level where it is.
There have been more inventions, more medical breakthroughs, more scientific breakthroughs out of Israel and the community there per capita. I mean, compared to the rest of the world, the statistics are just staggering that back up what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, and was that the case 400 years ago? I mean, who knows? I don't know. But I mean, it's very clear. These people, these are the people who probably controlled and rewrote the Bible and stuff like that. I mean, the Harold Rosenthal's comment, Harold Wallace Rosenthal, his comment. By the way, after he did this, he was killed 30 days later. Mm. So they don't like that kind of information coming out, mm-hmm. and you can't blame them. In other words, if your deal is to control the world and lock everybody down with COVID and take, oddly enough, the people who are healthy, which are the unvaccinated ones for the most part, and completely change that story and shut down all of the other doctors who are coming out with proof that the stuff inside of this vaccine is absolutely horrid, but it never sees the light of day because these guys control the media. They don't want this stuff out. They don't want anybody exposing who that is. And why would they? So the reason that you see fact checkers that come in, and when you have real truthful doctors, and it doesn't matter what the issue is, whether it's that or our economy or anything else, but when you have real factual truth that's well documented, they shut it down in a hurry. And
my wife, the other day, she posted some kind of scripture and prayer on Facebook, and she got fact checked on. I should have an example of that to share with the audience.
I mean, these guys, and what's really sad is that with all this stuff happening, in other words, this whole thing is about divide and conquer. I mean, that hasn't changed. When you're on this planet and when you're going to a war, it's divide and conquer. Split the people that you're fighting, split them up. Hey, let's talk bad about white Christians, okay? They don't have any bad history per se, but let's do that. And and by the way, let's pit them against. We won't bring the Jews into this. We'll just kind of stay aside because you can't say anything bad about us. But let's pit the whites against the blacks. Let's tell the blacks that it's the white Christians that's screwing them over, when that isn't the case at all. The case is it's the Zionists that have done it, and they're not. And by the way, they're not. The Zionists aren't picking on the black people. They're screwing everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Jewish people and the rest of us have to understand the difference between these two people. The good Jewish people are the good Jewish people, and they probably don't have any more knowledge of the what a Zionist is and what their history is and what they are intending to do and what they've successfully done for well over 60 years, any more than the rest of us. So it's not. I mean, if I was Jewish, I would ask that question too. Gee, why is there an anti-Semitism thing when there isn't a, you pick it. Anti-white, anti-black, anti-Hispanic, anti-Irish, anti-German, we were given everything we needed to have in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that covered all this stuff. And these guys are dividing and conquering on everything, on every level. It's Republican versus Democrat. It's black versus white, or everybody versus white. Okay. Why is it everybody versus white? Because it's the white Christian who started this nation, with the help of others, but by and large, a white Christian nation. And it's the white Christians, if they ever woke up, by the way, who could turn this apple cart over. It's probably not the people crossing the border that are going to turn it over. I would hope it would be the black community, along with the white Christians and along with the good Jewish people and everybody else who said, hey, we've had enough of this. But when you don't know, when you're in a war and you don't know who your enemy is, the enemy's in pretty good shape, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah. So, I mean, we didn't know 60 years ago, and 60 years later, we might know less. So, hopefully that's not the case. I mean, isn't it in the Bible that the good people are supposed to win, aren't they?
That's the book I read.
I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work. But, if you're an odds maker in Las Vegas and you say, yeah, let's see, we got 5,000 years here, roughly, or whatever it is, people on the planet, and it looks like the bad guys have been winning pretty consistently for the vast majority of right on up to today, so you got a bad money bet there, and hence this is where faith comes in, isn't it? In other words, it's all about faith.
And
God's not going to say, hey, here's the deal, I'm just putting it on the table for you, and this is light and this is dark, and that's what it's about. And sadly, I think a whole lot of prior civilizations and prior generations have had a lot of faith and expected that they were at that end time where hopefully things would change for the good. And a lot of people have gone through that. So who knows? It certainly looks like we're at that time now, and it looks like a lot of things have led up to that.
Well, but, even mainstream media is now starting to kind of turn their head sideways as they look at Joe Biden, his administration, and the decisions, the executive orders that he signed. I mean, they were his lapdogs up until just here recently. And so it's going to be, and anytime somebody calls Joe on the carpet or questions something he says or has said or done, he doesn't deliver a thoughtful answer. he's like a little kid on the playground. He just gets mad and stomps his little feet and walks away. I know they joke on TV about all we ever see of Joe Biden's the back of his head, because he never
There's a
faces the
wonderful
issues.
thing, by the way, where he's saying that I just saw the video of this the other day. A younger Joe Biden, but he was proudly saying, he says, "Well, you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. I'm a Zionist," and there you go. So, but most people can't even it's one of those words that kind of goes in one ear and out the other. And it's been designed to do that. We have to be a truth seeker if we want to find anything. Frankly, it's probably a good. The term ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
a lot to be said for that.
The dictionary definition of Zionist: a supporter of Zionism, a person who believes in the development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel, a member of any group of independent churches which practice a form of Christianity incorporating elements of traditional African beliefs. So that's a Zionist.
Well, that's real helpful. Now I know far less about it than I did to be.
So here's Zionism, a movement for the reestablishment and now the development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. It was established as a political organization in 1897 under Theodore Herzl and was later led by Chaim Weizmann. So a Zionist is someone who practices Zionism, and Zionism, a movement for, originally, and the reestablishment and now the development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. So, in case anybody didn't know, there you have it.
Yeah, and that's a horrible definition, by the way.
How would you define it?
I don't even want to go there. The people, the Jewish people, the original Jewish people, have been taken advantage of in a big way. Can you imagine? Here's the thing I'd kind of like to say about that. Let's say you're a white Christian, okay? Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of, let's just say you're a Christian, no matter what color you are. And all of a sudden, this more intelligent race of people, group of people, come in and slowly and say, hey, we're really interested in the Christian faith. Could you help us learn to be Christian? Well, if you're a Christian, you're thinking, wow, what a nice thing. Sure, we'll be happy to help you. Well, we'd like to start some Christian churches in our nation up here. Would some of your, ministers move up here? We'll buy you a big church and give you a nice place to live and take care of you and your family. And we just want you to preach to us and teach us. Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, isn't that nice? What a wonderful thing. Well, they don't care about your religion. They have no interest in thinking about it or doing it. They just, that's a basis of what they need for what their plan is. What's their plan? World domination. They've told you that from the beginning. So that's what they want to do. And slowly they take over your news media. And they got money. So now they come down. Now all of a sudden they're coming into our country because they're our friends. They're just like us. They're people who want to learn our religion, and so we welcome them in. And now we've got a nice thing going back and forth. We'll go visit their country. They come visit our. Pretty soon they're settling in our country. Pretty soon they're buying our news media. Pretty soon they're opening a bank. There it is. And then they've got that done. Now they've got their base. Now they take it up in their area and go with it. and all the time. And oh, by the way, now when you're a Christian, these are the head Christians now. And for 400 years go by, and who are the Christians? They are. Who's in charge of Christianity? They are. You know, for the most part. You could have other people that were following it, and pretty soon, you know, things change. A little bit changes in your religion, slowly but surely. And if it changes, it's okay, because the news media will tell you that it's okay, and people won't believe that. They'll say, no, that isn't right. That isn't right. And you know, 30, 40 years go by, 3 or 4 years go by, 14 years go by. All of a sudden, you've heard it. That's all you've ever heard. So pretty soon, it's right. Black's white, white's black. Today's Tuesday. You know, you tell them enough, it changes, and we see it in our own country. It's exactly what's happened here. But I think the good Jewish people, what a horrible thing to do to a good people, and they're taking over now. It's not to say that, you know, there's plenty of sectors that are, you know, doing what they want to do, but the big picture drive is it's been fully taken over. They've taken over our banking system and our news media and so forth. And because they control that, you're not going to read about it unless you do some homework. So let's talk about these futures.
Well,
I'm looking at your chart.
Yep, we're at the 62% reverse fib. This was the all-time historic intraday high, the all-time historic closing high. On September 10th, we got below this green line. That's one of our indicators. It's called the BBC, just stands for Bull Bear Cross. We have spent 95% of this year above the BBC. This right here is the longest stretch we've spent below the BBC the entire year. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trading, 10 consecutive sessions below that green line. That's the first time that's happened this year. And so from this high to this low, we're sitting right here at the 62% reverse fib and the BBC. Now, when price is above that green line, we're bullish. We anticipate higher prices. When price gets below that line, we're bearish. We anticipate lower prices. And last night in our workshop, price was looked just like this. It had not yet traveled down to the 50% reverse fib. We were just sitting right here at the daily BBC. The session had only been open about 3 hours. Our workshop starts at 9 p.m.
Let me
Eastern.
move that out of the way.
Overnight, price dropped to the 50% reverse fib and bounced right back up to the daily BBC. So there's a huge battle being waged. Now, if buyers can take out the high of today, then they've got to take out the high of yesterday, Thursday. That's going to bring us to this bearish cross. That's where this red line crosses below the green line. That is going to be strong resistance on the first trip up. It almost always is. Every bullish cross, when price revisits it, it's support. And on a bearish cross, when price revisits it, resistance. So if we've got to first overcome today's high, then Thursday's high, then we've got to overcome this bearish cross that took place back on September 17th. Only then can we make a run at the all-time historic high, both intraday and closing. We're sitting here, we've been just back and forth, sellers did manage to take us down to that 50% reverse fib, but we popped right back up. So there's a huge battle being waged here. We haven't broken 1 million contracts on the session. We're at 821,000, so by the end of the session, we most likely will break 1 million, but not by a lot. You can see the red body is starting to print again. If we get through this 50% reverse fib, that's going to put us at the 38. That's where I think ultimately we find out which way this market's going to go. Our indicator here, the blue and climbing, red and falling, now that it's directly below price, it can actually act as support as price comes down. and we've got the 38% reverse fib right there. If we trade below that area, then most likely we go back to test this most recent swing low put in on September 20th down at 42.93. That would be here. Now, if that gives way, next area for potential support would be the low put in on July 19th. The 24% fib retracement, the shallowest fib retracement for this entire year, reaching back into last year. The 24% fib is way down here at 39.83. So sellers have the upper hand right now only because we're at the BBC and we can't seem to break and hold above that reverse fib. How we close today, if we close with any red body at all on this daily candle, then I anticipate lower prices on the open Sunday night. If somehow the cavalry comes to the rescue and pushes price up above that 62 and turns this little body here green, then that sets somewhat of a bullish tone for the open Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern.
I've got a friend who uses a numeric system, and I was kind of surprised to hear it, but he'd say, I'd love to see a print above yesterday's high. He said it doesn't have to go above it hardly anything at all, and it certainly doesn't have to stay there. And I'd like to see that as kind of the the kiss of death for the reversal. I don't know why he needs that to be above that.
Well,
at least
our number for the market to be out of the woods, so to speak, in other words, on a path to challenging the all-time high, I want to see the market print and hold 44.80. 44.80 is our number up there. In other words, we got to take out today's high, yesterday's high, the bearish cross, this high, and then at 44.80 we'll be looking to trade long right on up into the all-time historic high.
Yeah, it's
the least bit of bad news right now could send this thing just tumbling lower. We would expect a bounce here. We already had a bounce at the 50, 44.14. The next spot we expect a bounce would be 43.85, and that might actually hold. But if 43.85 doesn't hold, then most likely we go back to test the low at 43.23, followed by the low at 42.95, and ultimately this low here at 42.16 put in on July 19th. That's what the S&P looks like. The Dow on our 30-minute chart, we're just consolidating at the weekly trading zone. As I tell the guys every day, only three things happen at a weekly zone. The most likely thing is what you see here, consolidation. This is the market making up its mind. Is it going to make a run at the zone overhead or the zone below? When price is below the green line, the BBC, then we expect price to travel to the zone below, which we did overnight. And when price drops to a zone, we expect it to be good support. It was. We opened this morning on Wall Street. That sent the market sharply higher. We sliced through the zone, and then we immediately retraced back to the zone, and we're just consolidating sideways here, waiting for something to move the market. On the Russell, we're at the weekly trading zone. We've traded below it. We're below the BBC. Now, I often refer to the Russell as our man in the street, because sometimes that Russell will, because it's comprised of 2,000 small cap companies, it's a little closer to the real economy than the 500 large cap companies that make up the S&P 500. So if we take out this low right here, we already have triggered our short trade for the day on the Russell, the CTA at 2240, and it ran right to the target beautifully, 2232. It's an 8-point drop, $50 a point, $400 per contract traded. We got a window of opportunity coming up right here, guys. You may want to look at this. You can wait for the Russell to get down to the trigger, or you could consider taking an entry at about 22.42, and so you'll have 2 points by the time you get to the trigger. And then once we trigger, then we would look for another move back down to the weekly zone below. The price doesn't seem to be in any hurry to go anywhere quick. On the NASDAQ, we triggered on the short side last night at 15,253 and ran right to the published target at 15,186. That's the published entry. That's the published target. And from 253 to 186, 253 minus 186 times $20 a point. That trade last night that was given to all of our members, from the published entry to the published target, $1,340 per contract traded. If you've earned the right to trade 10 contracts, that's a $13,000 move. We've gotten back above the trigger. We outlined at the beginning of the show that this bearish cross, the first time price got back to that area, it would most likely be resistance. It almost always is. So it has now pushed price down. When the market finds resistance it can't overcome, it turns around and goes looking for support. So we have pulled back. We may pull back a little further to the BBC, and we're going to take, it looks like, another run at this thing. That covers all the indices. On crude oil, our trigger was 73.60. We've traded 74.27 so far, so that's about $620 per contract traded. And on gold, the short trigger last night was 17.42, and we traded 17.40, so that was $200 per contract traded. The markets, all of them are, compared to what we saw the last 2 days, are just consolidating sideways, price going from zone up to the zone, back down to the zone, an attempt at the zone. We've got a window of opportunity here in gold, and so guys, you may be interested. I won't have time to put this in the channel. On gold, consider being short 17.48, down to the weekly zone at 17.47. It's $100 per contract traded. Go ahead, Garrett.
I was just going to ask you, does that look potentially negative here, that you might go down and test that low?
No, it's just sideways consolidation from this zone up to this zone, down to this zone. The fact that we failed to make it back up to the zone shows weakness in the market. So that increases the probability that we are going to drop back down to the zone below. So this one's almost like shooting fish in a barrel.
Do you look at silver too? I think silver was down today more than gold.
Silver, right here. Last night the short on silver was 22.33. The long trigger was 22.69. A $1 move in the price of silver is worth $5 grand. The long trigger was 22.69, and we put in a high at 22.79. So that's 10 cents or $500 per contract traded. Down here, the short side was to be short 22.33, and we hit the target, which was 22.14/15. So that's basically 18 pennies, 2 pennies, $100. And we're sitting right on top of the trigger. We've got blue and climbing in the way, guys, so let price drop below the trigger. Let it drop below the low of this candle. And if you're going to trade it, trade this window of opportunity right here. We're talking an entry at 22.26, and then be ready to take your profits at 22.15. Okay.
Dwayne, I better run. Thank
All
you
right,
so
buddy.
much for
Thank you.
letting me share some time with you.
Always enjoy it.
My pleasure, and you have a good weekend.
Yeah.
And
If you have some time, give me a call over the weekend.
I will. I look forward to it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dwayne.
All right, guys. That's going to wrap it for today. Here we sit with that daily doji on the daily chart. Market trying to make up its mind. It's like winding a spring. Okay. This thing is going to, I believe, deliver an explosive move one way or the other. I won't try to pull your leg and tell you I know which way it's going to go, because I don't know what's going to happen next. But I know what the next high probability move is, and the next high probability move is, we said earlier, look for a pullback to the BBC. Well, there we go. And now that we've pulled back and held, look for a move that challenges blue and climbing, this high, and then your target would be that weekly zone at 44.48. Okay. All right. Good word for the day. Does your loved one need a miracle? Maybe you need a miracle. Mark 2:3 says, 4 people came up carrying a man on a mat. Sure, you've all read this scripture before. Mark 2, verses 2 through 5. Jesus was still teaching when 4 people came up carrying a man on a mat because he could not walk. But because of the crowd, they could not get their friend to Jesus. So they made a hole in the roof above him, and they let the man down in front of everyone. When Jesus saw how much faith they had, I mean, they were willing to crawl up on some guy's house, I don't know if they knew him or not, and cut a hole in his roof. That takes bold, right? You got to have lots of bold to do something like that. But when Jesus saw how much faith, they had enough faith to do that, he said to the man, get up, pick up your mat, and go on home. So friends, if your loved one needs a miracle today, number 1, use your faith. Even though you're praying for someone who may have little or no faith of their own, God will honor your faith on their behalf. When Jesus saw how much faith they, the man's friends, had, he said to the man, get up. So don't ever give up on praying for that friend or that loved one who has perhaps strayed from the faith or never come to the faith. I know that the many years that I spent out there, a couple decades sowing my wild oats, I had a grandmother on her knees and a mother calling out my name in prayer every single day. I had this incredible hedge of protection around me, even though I was living the life of a wild man. Put your faith to work for those you know who have no faith of their own. God will honor that just as he did in this scripture. Number 2, refuse to give up. Do what these 4 friends did. Maybe you don't have to put a hole in somebody's roof, but the crowd was a problem, so they figured out a way around it. The roof was a problem, so they broke it. They refused to get up or discouraged. We don't ever hear about how the man dealt with the issue that he now had a hole in his roof. Just like we never hear about the pig herder who owned all those pigs, that when Jesus cast the demon out of the boy and sent the demon into the pigs, and the pigs ran off the cliff. Sometimes I wonder about stuff. That's your whole livelihood. It's everything you got. And they go rushing off a cliff. I guess there was lots of bacon for everybody. So anyway, back to our topic. Bottom line, if what you've tried hasn't worked, ask God to show you the way. Doctors can treat people, but only God can heal them within and without. So bring your loved one to Him in prayer. Refuse to give up. And number 3, look for faith partners. It took 4 people to get this man to Jesus. So don't do it alone. Find someone who will agree with you in prayer and who will be fervent and persistent in asking God for His help and believing that He is a miracle working God who still heals today. And that's our good word for the day. And if you don't have any faith partners or prayer partners, my sister-in-law, Barbara, she leads a small prayer group every morning, Monday through Friday, on Facebook Live. And so I've posted the link to the group a number of times in the CFRN Breeze channel. And before Monday morning, I will post the link again. She starts basically 10 a.m. Eastern. So that may or may not work for you based on your work schedule or your trading schedule. But when you do something on Facebook Live, it saves it and records it, like YouTube. And so you can click the link, join the group. You can type in any prayer requests that you might have. And even if you can't attend live, you can watch the video later in the day, and you can hear that friend or loved one being prayed for, not just by Barbara, but by the whole group of us that attend each morning. I try to attend each morning as I can. So I'll be posting that link in the Breeze channel in Telegram over the weekend. And as I always do Sunday morning, I'll try to remember and post a link to the church that we attend, Elevation Church, out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We attend via our big screen TV and our living room. We've been doing this since the beginning of the pandemic, the lockdown, and all of that. The worship videos that I often play before the show starts, that's the Elevation worship team. A lot of the popular songs that you hear on contemporary Christian radio, like K-Love and Air One and K-Life, a lot of those songs are written and performed by the Elevation worship team, some of them in conjunction with Maverick City. If you go to like Billboard or some of the other music charting websites and you search under the Christian category, you'll quite often see the top songs in the top 10 are either from Elevation or Elevation in Maverick City. Not to put them up on a pedestal. They're God's instruments. The people are God's instruments. But the music is good. It really touches me. And the preaching is good. The pastor is Stephen Furtick, F-U-R-T-I-C-K. You can Google that up and you can watch previous services. But it streams live on Sunday morning. So Sunday morning I'll do my best to remember to put that link in. And of course I'll save you a virtual seat. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.